Welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every single morning to help you catch up with things that have been taking place in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all important sleep. Because let's face it, whilst you need sleep, I need sleep, the whole world needs sleep. The world of sport is something that doesn't really sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it can be a little tough to keep a track of every little thing that is taking place in the world of sport. But worry not, that's why we're here, and we're going to catch you up with something that, truth be told, extends the misery of one particular Indian cricketer. Now, the Mumbai Indians IPL 2024 campaign, which has been a pretty miserable one from the get-go, came to an all too predictable end when they ended up losing to the Lucknow Super Giants in their final match. One would think that that would be the end of the misery for not only Mumbai but Hardik Pandya, who, lest we forget, has in fact been copping plenty of stick from fans in general as well as pundits. Fans, of course, because he replaced Rohit Sharma as MI captain, experts because of his rather questionable captaincy calls and mixed form with both bat and ball. But well, the misery continued after the match because we got to know that Hardik Pandya was in fact fined 30 lakhs for keeping a slow over rate during the IPL match against the Lucknow Super Giants, and a 30 lakh fine means that what follows is a one match ban. 30 lakhs, of course, is the fine that's handed out on your third offence, and when the third offence is done, you're given a one-match ban. Of course, since MI have no games left in this particular edition of the IPL, that suspension will be effective during the 2025 edition of the Indian Premier League, which means that Pandya will be missing out on MI's opening game of the 2025 season, whatever that game may be. Sticking with IPL news, but rather than looking at the past, looking forward, RCB CSK is the game that is going to be taking place today, and obviously there's plenty of stakes in that game. It's a straight shootout for the final playoff spot in the 2024 edition of the IPL playoffs. RCB need to win by a certain margin to ensure that they make it through. CSK, a narrow loss or a win ensures that they will be in the playoffs. But there's one major thing that they're going to have to be contending with, and that is, of course, the Bengaluru rain. Now, the rain forecast has been changing, generally speaking, every single day, and that's usually how it goes with weather. But as of right now, the chances of a match happening don't really look that good, because according to multiple, let's say, weather apps, what you're getting to know is that there's going to be chances of rain as high as 87%, with few thunderstorms in the evening. Now, whilst there was, of course, no rain yesterday morning, and there will most likely perhaps be no rain today morning, it is expected to get much worse in the evening time. But of course, evening time is when the match is scheduled, so you could very well be facing a situation where you get at best a rain truncated game, or at worst a washout, which would determine the fate of this particular straight shootout for the final playoff spot. Speaking of course, IPL, and yesterday's game saw one rather unusual anecdote come in, or I should say hilarious, interesting line come from KL Rahul. Now, of course, KL Rahul himself has been a captain under the scanner. LSG have underperformed, but after the game, he actually made a line that was very funny and caught the attention of a lot of netizens. Why? Because he said that I'm on my father-in-law's team now. We'll both be cheering for Sharma ji ka beta in the upcoming World Cup. It is, of course, a reference to that very famous advertisement where you can see KL Rahul with both Rohit Sharma and, of course, his father-in-law Sunil Shetty. And of course, KL Rahul will be cheering on the men in blue this time around because he hasn't been named in the squad for the T20 World Cup. Still, a pretty fun, anecdote, and a pretty interesting thing for him to say. But at least he still has his wits and sense of humor about him, even in what has been a rather difficult campaign for the Lucknow Super Giants. Now, of course, as we're talking about CSK, one rather interesting anecdote came up about CSK, and it came from Virender Sehwag, of all people, who revealed that he was actually first approached to be CSK's, captain, or their quote-unquote icon player. Remember, CSK didn't really have an icon player. They bid hard for MS Dhoni in the auction and ended up making him the captain. And of course, it was a relationship that stood strong and still stands strong as far as the test of time. But it's interesting to think that it could have been Virender Sehwag, because as he revealed, he said that PB Chandrasekhar at that point in time was selecting the players for CSK. He phoned me and said, we want you to play for CSK. Delhi Daredevils want you to be their icon player. Don't accept the offer. What Sehwag then in fact said that, was that, well, I didn't really know what to do with their particular offer. And truth be told, what would have happened in that case if I had rejected the Delhi Daredevils offer as an icon player is that CSK would in fact be that CSK would have bid hard for me and they would have made me their captain. It's an interesting, really, what if sort of a situation when you will be looking at, let's say, IPL history. Because again, Sehwag is one of those players never won an IPL. Dhoni ended up winning 5 with CSK. Could Sehwag have gotten a couple of IPLs if he was CSK captain? Maybe, maybe not. I guess it's something we'll never really know. Now, switching our focus from the world of cricket to the world of football, and we do know at last from, we've been hearing for a long time now who it is that will be replacing Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp. Now, Jurgen Klopp, of course, had said that he'll be standing down at the end of the season, but that obviously raised a big question about where exactly, Liverpool would turn. And there had been links to Dutch manager Arne Slot, and Slot, who is currently the manager of Feyenoord, did in fact confirm recently that he will be Liverpool's next manager. He told it to the press, and of course, what's even more interesting is that it comes despite the fact that Liverpool haven't themselves acknowledged it, but Slot himself acknowledging it means that it's as good as a done deal at this point in time. He told, press journalists that he will in fact be coaching Liverpool next season. Maybe Liverpool are waiting for the point where Klopp's reign officially ends, because of course that will be Sunday after the final stage of the Premier League matches are done and dusted. But still interesting to know where it is that Liverpool will be heading. Another bit of interesting news, but this time, of course, regarding a coach who, rather than getting, let's say, leaving on his own terms, ended up getting sacked. So what happened was that Juventus ended up winning a trophy in, pretty interesting circumstances. They beat Atalanta 1-0 in the Coppa Italia final. But Massimiliano Allegri, who was the Juventus manager, ended up creating a bit of a scene and got a bit of an argument with the fourth official, even had an argument with the TV station, and it definitely caught the attention of a lot of fans online, but it didn't please Juventus, who actually ended up firing him with 2 seasons of with 2 games worth of 2 games still left in this particular season of the Serie A. Of course, Juventus are already guaranteed a Champions League spot, and they were probably going to fire Allegri anyway. But truth be told, whatever the case is, I don't think they were going to be sticking with him. And they said that very clearly his sudden sacking, came down to behavior that was unacceptable. Also, a bit of interesting football news, and this one is something that Barcelona fans will enjoy. The napkin that Lionel Messi first signed his, his first quote-unquote contract on, was up for auction recently, and that napkin, which was of course his first formal contract as such, has been sold for about £762,400, which is about USD 965,000. So $965,000 is what that napkin has fetched. Those of you who don't know, that napkin was basically a preliminary contract of sorts that was written up by Barcelona officials at the time, because Messi's father, Jorge Messi, was getting a little paranoid that no deal was being done. So they gave him that assurance on a napkin, and a formal contract was soon to follow. Of course, that napkin has gone down in folklore given the career it launched, but it has also now fetched a very, very big sum. Switching our focus now, and we'll take on some sports beyond both cricket and football. Let's see, Formula 1 is back this weekend, and the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which will be taking place in the Italian region of San Marino. Well, it was expected to be another Max Verstappen domination, but the first 2 days of practice have looked anything like that. In fact, it's been the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc who stopped the practice timings in both of the practices so far. Of course, practice is a very different beast, because more often than not, you'll see teams experiment with their setups, try and get a few things, do a little bit of changes. But Red Bull have been way off the pace so far. In fact, if you look at both the short and long runs that have been done, Ferrari and McLaren are the first and second fastest team, Mercedes just behind them, and Red Bull so far only the 4th fastest team in this particular circuit. In fact, Max Verstappen ended up having a pretty bad time, and he was only 7th in the second free practice, and in the first free practice also not really anywhere. Could this be, one race where you don't get to see much Red Bull domination? Fingers crossed that's the case, but I'll make any calls once we see free practice 3 and of course qualifying. Bit of tennis news, and the Italian Open, incidentally, we're still sticking to the same region but a different sport. The Italian Open now has its men's finals as well. That's because Chilean 21st seed Nicolas Hari has outclassed the American Tommy Paul. 6-3, 6-7, 6-3 is the margin. It was a pretty close it was pretty close, but reached the final, and former champion Alexander Zverev will be the opponent for Nicolas Hari. Why? Because Zverev ended up beating Chilean Alejandro Tabilo, again rallying to win. but that is going to be the men's final. So we'll get to know what exactly the results for the men's and women's finals will be in a couple of days. And this is an interesting tournament to keep an eye on. Very simple reason that it is in fact the build-up to the French Open. Last bit of news before we call a wrap on this edition of the Morning Wrap. There have been 4 Indian men boxers who ended up taking part in the Elorda Cup, and unfortunately ended up only winning bronze medals. The 4 boxers are of course Yabhaiba Singh, Sohaibham, Abhishek Yadav, Vishal and Gaurav Chauhan. All these 4 boxers bowed out in the semi-finals, and of course in boxing, if you bow out in the semi-final of any tournament, you get a bronze. Now, of course, getting a bronze will not be great preparation considering you're looking forward to the Olympics coming up, and you hope that some of them can potentially go above and beyond. But if you're looking for any medals in this particular tournament, keep an eye out for later today, because reigning world champion Nikhat Zareen, Meenakshi, Anamika and Manisha, 4 Indian women boxers, will all be in contention in gold medal bouts in their respective weight categories. So keep an eye out for that. Should be a good one. For now though, I'm taking your leave, but thank you guys so much for joining us in this edition of the Morning Wrap. As always, appreciate you guys rocking with us. If you like our work, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sportstech app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. Stay tuned, plenty more coming your way. For now, from my side though, it's goodbye.